Welcome to the Business Greater Than You podcast, where we dive deep into the stories of men and women who have successfully transcended the frazzled solopreneur life and built productive teams with better lifestyle and income.
I'm Nelson Barss, the founder and owner of Utah Independent Mortgage Corp.
And I'm Liz Sears, founder and co-owner of My Utah Agents.
We're excited for you to listen, interact, and grow with us. So please share your comments below and let's get started.
Well, today's topic is one that you and I have both had a lot of experience, both successfully and unsuccessfully, in implementing the onboarding and training. And so I would love to just talk to you a little bit first about, or share with our visitors, I guess visitors works too, listeners, viewers, the difference or what you do between you've now made the offer, you're about ready to hire, and that 2-week period that you needed to get ready for it. What do you do to prepare during then?
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this too. I think first of all, we're still recruiting them. When I have someone who I'm really excited about, I'm still nervous that they're not going to come.
Yeah, or that they'll show up and not be as bought in or not like see the true opportunity.
But if you think about it, they're out there interviewing with a lot of companies. Some of them are unemployed and they've got plenty of interviews and options, especially if they're great.
Yeah, especially if they're a good hire.
And so I need those 2 weeks anyway to get ready for a good start for that employee. But I look at it too as I want to keep building the experience for them. It's almost like a client, right? We want them to have a wow experience, just like our clients.
Right.
So we've built in touch points. We're doing, our office manager does a lot of this, but we're doing background checks and credit checks. And sometimes I'll call after the credit check comes back just to say, hey, we got it. It looks amazing. Still super excited to have you.
Unless it doesn't, of course.
Yeah. If it doesn't, I'll say, can we talk about this a little bit? And I want to understand what happened and give you a chance to explain more,
Yep.
But we're also, our office manager will reach out and ask them to order a couple of shirts. So we'll send them like a catalog and say, okay, we're going to get you 2 logoed shirts.
Nice.
And our goal is to have them on their desk when they show up on day 1.
Nice.
Right. And then I've also asked our office manager to have their business cards on their desk by the time they get here on day 1, which means they've got to have a phone number. They've got to have an email address.
Yep.
They got to have logins to our systems.
Right.
So a lot of the onboarding process happens remotely, emails over the phone between us and the candidate, just keeping the momentum going and the excitement going for the first day.
Right.
And selling them. Sometimes I'll just call, 2 days before their start day and just say, hey, we're really excited. Just want to see if you have any questions. How's it feeling to you? I want to hear if there's any doubts, or if there's any concerns, like they might not show up.
Right.
I just get nervous. Like, I really love this person. I really want them to come. And so I'm going to keep recruiting.
Yeah. In our onboarding, the courtship, I think is what we had called it before, between offering the
good name.
job and bringing them on. We have a similar process. So since you're talking about staff, I'll talk about, again, the contract employees.
Yeah.
So for us, it's realtors that we bring on. We send them the agreements that they sign, just what it looks like joining our team. And once they've signed the agreements, then we start doing everything in preparation for onboarding. So we bring on our agents in batches or groups, onboarding group once a month. And between the time they sign the contracts until they come in, we do a bit of the same thing. We're still getting to know them. We have them start plugging into all of the team stuff. So the productivity coaching and our role play and our team trainings and things. And we have them come and sit down with Mama Hen Jen. That's what we call her. She was one of our original hires. So when how I said we started, we had 2 admin and 2 agents. Well, the 2 admin and Shannon and I, we run the office. And so we call ourselves the Core 4. And Mama Hen Jen is one of them. And she got that nickname just because she is so personable. So she was like the perfect person with interacting with the agents. Ironically, she's the one that came from the paralegal background with dotting I's and crossing T's. So she meets with them and she gets them set up on all their systems, answers their questions, and makes sure that they have all of the systems and structure ready to go. So when they show up to onboarding, they can log in and all of that.
Great.
And then just meeting the team in the meantime, same thing, just building that momentum, getting excited.
We do that
Onboarding
too.
starting.
You mentioned something that if we have a big meeting, sometimes we'll do a monthly review meeting with all the employees where I'll talk about the numbers for the month and our goals for the next month. And I'll bring a candidate to that meeting or someone who's been offered, but they haven't had their start date yet. I'll ask them to come, and they always, of course, would love to come and
meet
start
everybody.
being part of the culture and stuff.
I love it.
I think that's really helpful. Yeah. So I guess that's the first phase, right? Between offer and start day. And then the second thing we want to talk about is the first day, right? Giving them an exciting first day and how to do that and prepare. Can I tell a little nightmare story first?
I would love it.
My first day in the mortgage business, I worked for the guy already in a different capacity. And so he's like, I want you to come join my mortgage office. So I show up on the first day, and of course no one's there except for him. And I walk into his office and I said, okay, I'm ready to get started. He hands me a stack of leads and says, go call these leads. I'm like, okay. So I turn around and I look around and I'm like, where do you want me to sit? And he's like, I don't know, find a place. So I found a cubicle kind of off alone.
Yeah.
And then there was no phone at this cubicle. So I go back to his office. I'm like, where are the phones? He's like, oh, over in the closet. So I go over to the closet, grab a phone, plug it in. Oh, there's a dial tone. Like, hey,
good. I can call.
I got leads. I got a dial tone. I dial the first number, and I'm like, hey, this is Nelson. I'm leaving a voicemail.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, you can see this coming already.
I didn't know what phone number
You're
to
like,
leave.
and you can call me at.
Yeah. And I'm
click.
like, I will call you back because I don't know what phone number. And so, that was my onboarding experience in my first mortgage company. And I really learned what not to do there. I want a good experience for people on their first day.
My first day in real estate was actually at a mortgage office too. And I showed up and he said, I need help with this file, and handed me a file. And I said, how do I help? He's like, call the sales rep for that lender and figure it out. And I'm like, I don't even know what this document means. I don't even speak this language, mortgagees. I don't speak it yet.
Yeah.
And so just knowing what you're getting into and knowing how to do the job is huge.
Yeah. Somehow I stayed. Right. This is the same guy who bait and switched me. I told you about showing up my first day at the job before this. Same owner. Yeah. And I should have probably learned.
Should have seen it coming. But good thing you stuck it out, because that's why we're here.
So talk about the first day at My Utah Agents. What is that like? What do you guys do? Try to make that special, and why?
All right. So first day with our agents, when they come on, like I said, we bring them in a batch. So they always start on a Monday. And Mondays, we already do either mindset training or improv. Okay. And that's for all of our agents. Yeah. The reason we do improv is because everybody in sales learns their script, but the stinking clients don't know their lines. And so you got to be able to pivot with them. When they throw something crazy at you, how to smile and yes and rather than what. And so, and the mindset training, just because mindset is everything. If your mindset's not in the right place, then you're not going to be nearly as successful as you could be. And so they start Monday with one of the two, and we do team huddle. Team huddle is something we do Monday through Friday with the whole team anyways. We show up.
So you start them on Monday because you want them to have those experiences.
Yes. Yep. And we just want them to start the work week off the way that it starts. Yeah. And so team huddle, you get to know the team 5 minutes, jump off, and then you go straight into onboarding. First day of onboarding is kind of get to know you. The onboarding trainer is going to be your number one point of contact, as well as the other people you come on board with, that you reach out to each other, you reach out to your onboarding trainer, and then each one's assigned a mentor. So that first day, get to know you, tell what it's about, go into a lot of mindset training. A big mindset training we do too is to almost rewire their brains. Most people are to a point where they think that if they don't do something right, that means they made a mistake. And what we want to train their brain to be about is that if you don't do something right, it's because you don't have enough training yet. And mistakes are a price you pay along the road to success. It's mandatory that you make mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, it's kind of like J.K. Rowling said, that the only way to avoid making mistakes is to live so small that you fail by default.
Oh, wow.
And so you have to be willing to get out there. And so to teach them, go ahead and just know that you're going to learn as you go. And here's the mistakes you don't want to make. And here's the ones you probably will, and it's okay. And and then after we get that, then we kind of go into the week and we start the routine that way. But it's a lot about get to know you and setting themselves up to have expectations of success.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds like they probably get if they're not already excited, they get excited about being part of the team.
Yeah.
On day one.
And we talk about, in fact, one little piece here that we like to share a lot with our agents on the first day is one little mindset shift, which I think applies to this just because of how it is. We tell the story about a lot of parents will say to their two kids, like let's pretend a son and a daughter, and they tell the son, you did something mean. Or no, they'll say, you hurt your sister's feelings or you made your sister cry, say sorry. And then we say, what's the problem with that? And the problem is that you just taught your daughter, the one you were not talking to, that her feelings and her emotional state and everything like that is dependent upon her brother, rather than teaching her how to be empowered. And so what you should say instead is, what you did was really mean, say you're sorry. So then you're teaching that whole story. And so we just start talking about empowerment within their mind. And so that's kind of redundant.
Sounds like a powerful first day though.
It's necessary. Sure. Sales is a tough job.
Yeah.
It's a really tough job. Yeah. So you got to have that mental ability to.
Well, it's so necessary you do it every week, right? You keep it going forever.
Yep.
Our first day, I focus a lot on the desk. It might sound strange, but I want them to walk in and see a desk that's the opposite of what I walked into, right? And so what that looks like to me is there's a card on the desk that's signed by everyone in the office.
Oh, I love that.
We're so excited to have you here. Thanks for coming, right?
Yep.
There's a bag full of treats and drinks that are their favorite treats and drinks, right?
And you learned that through the interview process.
Yeah, and we have an all about you form that we have every employee fill out as part of the onboarding process. So we know what their favorite flower is, what their favorite drink is, favorite candy. We do that with our clients too, right? But we want these guys to have this experience where they show up on day one and it's like, wow, they know I like Diet Coke. There's a big cold Diet Coke sitting on my desk. Not only that, but there's an employee handbook on their desk. When they open up the handbook, it says, this is your training schedule for the next month. And it shows them the whole day blocked out every single day for 4 weeks of how their training schedule is going to work.
We do have that. We have an onboarding notebook that has tabs in it. And for their 12 weeks, like we don't give them their content for that day until they show up that day. So they get to add it to their binder and make notes.
They build their binder with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just, I think that the wow factor is important. We've already given them a wow factor during the working interview, but we want to step that up on their first day. So they come in, they see this desk. Obviously, their drawer is full of supplies. They already have pencils, notebooks. Like the computer works. Both monitors work. There is logins and passwords in their binder to get them in, to have them check their email. I mean, all of this is just done before they show up. That's the first 5 minutes, right? That's their wow experience. And then, the first day is really a culture day, similar to what you do. We always have a lunch with the whole team. So this is not just the few people who went during the working interview to lunch. This is everybody. And, if you can picture, there's 22 of us now. So we usually tell everybody to bring their camp chairs and we'll go sit out back behind the office in the grass.
Oh, I love that.
And we'll have a big circle and everybody gets lunch and we chat. We just introduce each person, kind of go around the circle and talk about when they started, why they started, how long they've been with the company, what their job is, and so forth. Right.
That's great.
We do an hour where I just sit down with them and tell them about the history of the company, why I started the business, and who I hired first and second and third. I kind of like to build. This is a new thing for me, but I want to build up those first few hires. Now they're in leadership positions in the company. And I want to set up some lore around them, right? About
what do you mean by lore?
Just like they came in and they figured this out. These are the things that I loved about them, and therefore, employee, that's how I want you to operate as well, right?
It's amazing how when you tell stories of how people show up and you laud it, you champion that this is how you show up, it almost sets the stage of how the new employee is going to show up and what you expect from them. Yeah. That makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think so. And I think people want to know, what do I need to do to succeed? Who's my role model? Who can I look to? And just do what they did and it'll be a successful thing, right? Yep. We also have this document. So if I can paint the picture, the night before I brought on my first mortgage assistant. I had hired someone to do office management type stuff. But the first time I had someone who was going to come on and actually take my clients and talk to them as my assistant and take them to closing, I was up till, I don't know, 4 in the morning.
Take them to closing. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm giving away my baby.
It felt like that. And I was up till almost time for that person to come in and start getting ready. And one of the things I did is I put together a big spreadsheet, roles and responsibilities, right? Who does what is what I call it. And we went over that on their first day. And the other thing I did is I put together a document that we still use every day. It's called Keys, Rules, Philosophies, and Tools. And it was just
like that.
25 points of customer service. Things like, we prefer phone calls over emails. And we don't deliver bad news without a plan.
Yeah.
You could think of 25 points. I learned this from a book.
And that's a huge one. Don't deliver bad news without a plan. That's the worst thing ever to do is without a plan.
I mean, there's so many like that. But the point is I spend a good hour to 2 hours just sitting down with that employee and reading through all 25.
Yeah.
It's almost like a first day. This is how we treat our customers training, right? And then what we do every morning in our stand-up meeting as a team, we read one of those items and discuss it together as a group. I learned that from the Ritz-Carlton. One of the founders of the Ritz-Carlton wrote a book recently about how they achieve that level of service that's legendary, right?
Yeah, I mean, they call it the Ritz-Carlton experience. I mean, even people.
So this came from them. I just kind of poached it from that book, but going over that on day one, and it just gave me almost like get it off my chest experience. Like, here, new employee, this is how we treat our customers here. This is what we expect. And I wrote it with the thinking that they don't come into the building with any training or knowledge about customer. I know they do have customer service experience, but I have to say the little things, right? Yeah. Like if we promise to do something, we do it by noon the next day, not by 5 p.m. the next day, because we want people to. So there's all these things. I don't want to get into all the different points on the list, but I think
we should put it on our
we could have
show
an episode
notes.
About that, or I could put the document on the show notes.
Actually,
if you
we
want.
could probably do an entire episode.
And I'd love to link to the book too. I would really encourage people to
buy the book.
Just study this concept of transferring your customer service expectations to your people, and it takes repetition and it takes kind of a real basic level.
Well, it goes back to the whole main point. Except for your mom and your select best friends, the people who hire you are not hiring you for you. They are hiring you for the experience. They're hiring you for that professionalism, the knowledge, what they would get if they worked with you. And so that's why it's so critical to make sure that every single person you bring onto the staff is fully versed in what that experience is supposed to look like.
So I got confused with what you were saying, but I understand it now. So I want to clarify for the listeners.
Okay.
You said the people that hire you, right? But what you mean
clients,
is your customers.
Your
customers choose you.
Yes.
Not because they want Liz Sears.
Right.
They want the Liz Sears experience.
Yep.
They want what the other customers who worked with Liz Sears got. And it's your job, Liz Sears, to make sure that everyone on your team
knows what that looks like.
Right.
Yeah. And it's funny because people will have a perception of what they feel customer service should be, but it's the 2 millimeter changes that really make all the difference.
Yeah.
And those 2 millimeter changes are not obvious to everybody. And sometimes they're not even obvious to you in the moment. But as you teach them, promote them, practice them, they become how you show up.
Yeah. Some other things that we do on the first day, obviously there's employment forms.
Yep.
Right? They bring their stuff. They fill out they meet with our benefits person. All of this, we try to really structure a first day. They show up and their first day schedule is like hour by hour. Here's what you're doing every hour today. And then let's move into training. Let's just talk about the training of a new employee. Again, a lot of the people that I hire come in as a staff member, as a service provider, and they're hourly. A lot of people that you hire are 1099 agents. And so I think there's going to be some differences. And I mentioned we have a schedule already mapped out for a month of training with them. Talk about your training schedule and what you map out and how you train your people?
So our agents, when they come in, we have a 12-week course that we call my Utah Agents University. And the first week, it's, we start at 8:30 in the morning and end at 2:00. The first half hour is with the entire team, and then they split off into their onboarding group for their instruction. So the first week it goes till 2:00, and then they have about 3 hours of homework. It's a lot of homework because we follow a process of I do, we do, you do. So I do it and you watch, we do it together. You do it by yourself, and then we are role-playing us being your customer.
Awesome.
So by the time you sit in front of a customer, you really know what you're doing. So our first week is all about mindset, the systems, everything like that, just learning how to use all the programs and such. Second week, the instruction, it starts again at 8:30 every morning, and it ends at 11:30. So it's just a few hours of instruction that day. And we go beginning to end, buyer, beginning to end, seller, because we want you to spend the afternoons finding clients. So we teach you also what to say, because we want you to have a client as fast as possible. We want you making money as fast as possible. And then starting on the third week, it's just 2 hours a week with homework. And that's where weeks 3 through 12, we dive really deep into how to successfully hold an open house, how to successfully negotiate a contract, how to successfully, all of the different pieces. And so that's how ours
That's
is.
a big difference from most real estate companies. Right?
Yeah.
The training that you provide, not just the mindset stuff, but I've seen you work with customers, right? What to say, how to win a listing, how to help your buyers win an offer in this competitive market. There's just so much that you guys teach your agents. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and going into absolute best practices, all the sales techniques and everything. One of the things that we love to tell them is that you do not apologize for your first month. If you make a mistake, kind of going back to a scenario we like to say is that if you see parents watching their child walk for the first time, you will never see those parents say, "Oh my gosh, seriously, you stumbled again and you fell? Pick up your foot, move it in front of the other one." It's tilting your balance. You have to fall forward, catch yourself. That's how you walk. And no, they're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, you did such a good job. Oh,
Even though you didn't do a
this?
good job walking.
No, you didn't. You
horrible
sucked
walker.
the first time you walked. You're terrible." And so that's how we view it with real estate is that as you get out there and you practice, we're going to champion and see all the things that you did right. And we're going to keep showing you and teaching you until you become very proficient and effective in doing all the different parts of the business.
Can I just interject right there? I think there's a culture killer in a lot of organizations. I've seen it in people who've come to work for me.
Yeah.
Where they are afraid to take a risk, make a decision because they get reamed for a mistake, right?
And publicly, and they get embarrassed about it, and they're told you should be embarrassed.
And they
you
come
should
in
feel
almost
bad.
like a wounded puppy into our organization thinking that that's how it's going to be.
Right.
And you have to overcome that, right? You have to, I think the other problem too, you've got, as a business owner, if you expect someone to not make mistakes,
right,
you are in for a big surprise. Honestly, it might be what's holding you back from
making those hires.
And delegating is you think
thinking
nobody's perfect, and I'm perfect, and I can't find anybody else as perfect as me,
and I can't have my customers experience anything but perfection.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is that most things that your employees might do wrong is something that you can fix very, very easily.
Great point.
Especially if for the first period of time, when they go to do something, have them run it past you first. Like right now, we just barely promoted our transaction coordinator to transaction manager because we have the 2 VAs that are helping her. And so we told her for their first month that, or however long it takes, every email they're about to send out, they have to send it to her first. Every, task that's going to affect a client, interactions that way, a text message they're going to send, they have to send it to her first. So that way she can make sure it's correct and then tell them what needs to be fixed. So there's ways that you can implement things that will minimize impact to you and your reputation. And then also just making sure the first time you do it, kind of like we mentioned in the last video or episode, is video yourself doing it and showing them how to do it, and then tell them to take that video and create the operations manual for that.
There's a great book about this, Clockwork Business by Mike Michalowicz.
Ooh.
It's kind of like, if you remember the E-Myth from 25 years ago, where
Love that book.
he teaches us to look at ourselves not as technicians, but as business owners, and to put together process manuals, right? Well, Mike Michalowicz, he was really good at kind of one-upping that idea with video.
Perfect.
You know, he's like, I wrote these manuals and they were outdated the day they were written. Right?
Right.
But if you record yourself doing it and you post it, we have in our company, we have a training library of different topics.
Yep.
And everyone in our company has done a couple of videos, how to order title, how to order appraisal, you know, all these things. And
updating it is so easy because just simply the next time you do the task, video yourself doing it.
Or if an employee watches the video and notices that it's outdated, it's their job to replace it with a new video.
Ooh, I like that one. We don't do that one. That would be a good one.
Yeah. So, I mean, for us, the process looks, when we bring in, most everyone we bring in comes in as an assistant on a loan team. Mm-hmm. And we don't always bring them in batches. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 at a time. Sometimes there's 1. Yeah. And we've designed it that way on purpose. We want to be able to just bring one person on when we need a person.
Right.
And we're pretty much almost always bringing somebody on about once a quarter at least. We've had a hire or 2, right? And so they have that monthly training schedule that's in their book on day 1. But what it looks like is half a day of shadowing, half a day of class. And the classes are not, we don't have a trainer. We don't have somebody full time that can just stand in front of a classroom and teach.
Yeah.
Right. So the classes are things we've found that are video presentations that take an hour or 2. Right. Mm-hmm. So for example, how to calculate someone's income. We found a video training from one of our mortgage insurance partners. They watch that. And at the end of the video, they have a meeting, just a 1-hour meeting where they dive into that topic and answer questions and they do some practice. Right.
Yep.
So it's like class, meeting, shadow every day. Class, meeting, shadow.
Love that.
And that goes on for a couple weeks. And I liked what you said about, I've heard you say this before about I do, we do, you do. Mm-hmm. And the way we look at that we have this skills transfer pyramid that I've been taught a lot about from our coaching program. And it's the same idea, right? We need to show someone how to do it a few times. Mm-hmm. And then we need to watch them do it a few times.
Right.
Before we just send them off to do it on their own. Mm-hmm. So what we created was a document called the Watch and Do checklist. We went down and we just listed, I think there's 20 things on the checklist that someone needs to learn how to do in order to consider themselves fully trained. Some of it's simple, right? Order a title report.
Yeah.
Right? Some of it's calculate income off of a self-employed tax return, and that piece could be a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, lots of variables there.
So after about 2 weeks and the classroom time is done, we hand them this Watch and Do checklist, and we say it's your job. And it has watch this item 2 times, do this item with a coach 2 times. Mm-hmm. So and some of the more complicated items might have 3 times and 3 times, right? But they run around, it's printed on cardstock. They run around the office. Is anybody
ordering title?
Exactly. Who's got to order an appraisal today? Because I still got to watch one more person order appraisal.
I love it.
And then when it's time, next thing they say is, who's got to order an appraisal today? I need to order appraisal. I need someone to watch me.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
Watch me.
And so they run around and they fill out their Watch and Do checklist, and we want them to finish that before they consider their training to be complete. I think it's pretty handy.
Yep. Perfect. Yep. You know, I had one more thought that I wanted to bring up about the apologies. I moved on a little too quick from that. Is when someone apologizes, they are basically saying, I have right and reason to feel bad and inferior, and you have right to feel irritated and annoyed by me, and I must therefore ask your forgiveness. That's technically what an apology is. And so it actually kind of messes up the relationship also between the person who's apologizing, the person who's training, because technically if I've hired somebody to do a job and I have failed to train them how to do it effectively, then they're not the ones at fault. I am. Mm-hmm. And so as we both enter this relationship, knowing that we're both going to do our best, and as we work, like, neither person owes the other an apology. And what they owe is, yep, that wasn't done right. Let me share with you how to do it. And if you have an employee, if you have someone you have hired, in fact, I'll look at the camera while I say this. If you have somebody that you've hired that's not working out the way that you need them to, it's one of 3 things. It's either the systems, so they don't have like the right programs or whatever to do it. It's the right structure or support is what I meant to say of, you know, there's too much on their plate or the support to be able to do it, or it's the training. And the training has 2 parts. It has how to do the job and why to do the job. Because sometimes they'll have the system they need to do. They'll have all the support they know they need. They also know how to do the job, but if they don't understand how it impacts you and why it's important for them to get it done, they might bump it or not do it as well. And so it's not just teaching them how to do the job. Of course, that might be where the fall is, but it's also teaching them the impact behind it. So having both of those pieces. So as you have your new employee and as you're going through things, I think that's probably why you and I have built the training out the way we have, is to make sure that they have the full structure, they have the full support, and they have the training.
Yeah. Otherwise, if it doesn't work out, I would say more often than not, it's your fault as the business owner, as the trainer.
You did not explain to them why it was so important.
Especially, you spend a lot of time vetting this person. They appeared to have all of the capabilities to come in. And then I don't think you really should have the right to be disappointed with somebody in the first week. Like, why did you do it that way? Why?
Right?
I was like, wait a minute. It's your job now to show them how to do it.
And I've also found that during the first week, as you're training them, everything like that, when I thank them for what I want to see as though it's already there, they feel now obligated to do that because I already said thank you. Yeah. So I really appreciate that you just show up. It's awesome that you are always on time. They're like, I am always on time. So if they ever felt of running late later, they won't, and I'm so grateful that you're resourceful, that you try to figure it out. And I'm grateful that you ask me questions before you waste too much time. I don't want you to spend 20 minutes researching something that would take me 20 seconds to answer, but I also don't want you to ask me if it would only take you 3 minutes to find, because power in the process, you know, as they learn it. So just teaching them that balance, and always coming from a perspective of congratulating them, and also making sure that your feedback that you're doing during the first week, the first month, the first lifetime that they work with you, indefinitely, is have feedback, compliment often. Anytime they do even a teeny thing, a big thing, anything like that, you want to make sure that it is often, that it is spontaneous, and that it is specific. So you don't just say, thanks for being a great employee. You say, thank you so much for making that tough phone call, because I know that was something that was really hard. And not only did you make it, you did it before noon, which matches our, one of our top 25. Thank you. That really means a lot to me that you represent our company at that level. And they think, I did represent our company at that level. Now they have it reinforced to do so.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what about negative feedback? Obviously, we want to do more positive than negative, right?
Yep.
When somebody does something wrong, how do you go about correcting it, and when?
Perfect. If you do not correct it quickly, you are implying that it was fine. Like you're actually telling them that their behavior was acceptable if you don't address it. And the more often that you let them get away with not doing something, or let them get away with doing something that you don't like, then you are basically telling them that's fine.
So I learned that with the time clock in my office.
Oh my gosh, right? That
just
is
by
like
not saying something, I just kind of let everybody know I don't care.
So,
which isn't true.
Yeah, it's not true. And so having some things up front to know what to say to them can be a big deal. So even like with customers, or clients, if they show up late to an appointment, I'll say something like, oh, shoot, did you have trouble finding the place? I'm sorry. Maybe I won't say I'm sorry.
Passive aggressive there.
Little passive aggressive. So with them, I'll just bring up, hey, what happened with that? And what can we put into place so it doesn't happen again? And is there anything you need from me? I will often just say that. And I enter the conversation already in my head. I've chosen to see them as they are a smart person. Something happened. Either they don't know the impact, or they don't have all the pieces, or it's one of these things here, or maybe I haven't communicated, something like that. So I enter the conversation expecting that we will have a professional conversation of, I respect them, they respect me, let's resolve this, rather than I have to go in there and tell them they did something wrong, and I have to tell them they need to fix it, and I'm going to make them feel like they owe me an apology because I am superior and they are inferior.
Right.
Most people, without meaning to, enter it that way.
Yeah.
Most people enter it expecting them to feel like I did something wrong and I owe an apology. So going in there instead saying, I'm going to figure out what happened and how to make sure it doesn't happen again.
You go with an attitude of like, I trust and respect this person. Something must have gone wrong. Not
either
this person's an idiot and I've got to fix. One phrase that my team is learning and our coach is talking to us about is the first time someone does something wrong, you can say, I'm sorry. I must not have explained something right? This is on me. I don't think I coached you on this correctly.
Yep.
And if they keep doing it, then you change to, I'm confused.
Yeah.
Right? I'm confused. I thought we talked about this. Help me understand why this is still happening.
Yep.
I think that's 2 levels of just an easy way to start a conversation. Hey, we haven't talked about this before. I am sorry. Let me explain how I want this done and how we need it done for the sake of our customers. And here's why.
Yep.
So great.
Yeah. And it's so funny is that might be a time when saying I'm sorry does make sense. Cause there was,
yeah, you guys don't allow that word in your office.
Normally we don't, not from us, not from them, because we want to both view it as, this level. I had gone to my marketer, and this was a few years ago when before Shannon and I teamed up, I just had a support staff team. I had 4 people underneath me, and I had told her, apparently over and over again, different things. Like she would start going down a path and I'd say, nah, I don't like it. Let's switch this. Nah, actually let's do this and such. And she came to me like practically in tears and said, I just can't get anything right. I just keep screwing up. And I went, oh my gosh, maybe that would have been a time when I could say, I'm sorry. I realized I don't like the path I sent you down. And since we were past that point, instead the conversation I had with her, which is a conversation I've had a few times as an employer with employees, is that I told her everything she did right. I said, I sent you down this path. This is what I wanted. You presented it and you did exactly what I wanted. And in seeing the finished product, I realized that I wanted to pivot. And so I want you to know that I so much appreciate everything you did. And I will always retain the right to change my mind. As I see things, as I know it needs to evolve. And so now what I try to do is kind of back to that compliments, tell her, you did this fantastic. I've realized that I want to shift my direction that I'm giving to you to go down this other way. And so making sure that we don't accidentally even give good information that could be received poorly.
I think it's so important to have that positive interaction with everyone. If you're constantly using negativity to reinforce or to coach and to say, bad, instead of this was great, this was great, this was great, this is great. You reinforce. Have you ever read the book Whale Done?
No.
It's by Ken Blanchard. It's a pretty old one. But it's about how they teach the killer whales at SeaWorld, how they train them to do all the things they do.
Really?
And it's all through positive reinforcement. Right? So it's Whale Done. It's a good book. I just think that's the kind of environment people want to be in. Right?
Well, what's interesting is that the whole concept of through positive reinforcement, it has to do with mindset. It has to do so much with also habitual ways that you interact. I have found that as I become a better manager, I become a better self-talker. The way I talk to myself is improving. And as I work on being better with the way I talk to myself, causes me to be better at interacting with my employees, which causes me to be better interacting with my husband, my kids. It all is so much more intertwined than I ever thought. Yeah. So I have realized that my parents, who by the way were awesome parents, they were not perfect parents, did the best they could with what they knew at the time. And I will find that sometimes the way that I self-talk or the way that I parent or the way that I manage and things like that will be a reflection on the way that my parents had raised me. And so becoming more and more cognizant and aware of that, I'm really excited. I'm building a training right now that maybe we'll do an entire podcast about of the different ways that you talk to yourself. Yeah.
Well, that's really important. I mean, you're really good at this. I know the mindset stuff and the self-talk has been very important in your life. It has been in mine too. In the last few years, especially if you're going to grow, right? If you want to get beyond your comfort level, you're going to have to learn about self-sabotage, about negative self-talk. And then you have to recognize it in your employees too, and your people. Yes. And help them, right? And help them to see that, there's growth and how to do it, because that's how your business grows. Right?
Yeah. Honestly, one of the hires that we didn't put on here is hiring a coach. And so one of the coaches that I'm going through right now is a high performance coach. I have 2 coaches. And she calls me on stuff all the time. And one of the comments that she makes to me repetitively is, if you're letting yourself get away with this right now and talking to me, that means you let your employees get away with it with you. Yeah. So she's helping me recognize my self-talk in order to better recognize theirs. Yeah. And even just what we say out loud, how it impacts it. So,
So we've talked a lot about the training process. The one thing I want to, before we move on, I've had quite a few employees who, this is a month-long training process.
Yep.
And a lot of them bristle at that. They're eager to get to work. Give me some duties. Give me a loan to work on. Take some phone calls. And I think there's just a lot of value in saying to them, you're not ready.
Earning something makes it more valuable.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm ready to have you talking to my customers just yet, because you haven't been trained on these 5 things.
Yeah.
Right. And when you talk to my customers, I want you to know the answers to their questions. I want them to sense competence from you. Mm-hmm. And so I think everybody can benefit from pumping the brakes a little bit, really pondering about a training program that's going to be fair to the employee, and that's going to lead to a successful experience. And if you've tried this before, I'll talk to the viewers. Yeah. If you've hired people and it hasn't worked out, I would really examine your process for training. And I know it's hard. I mean, how do you, when you're a solopreneur and you're trying to bring on your first hire, how do you put this kind of structure in place? And all I can say is it grows over time, and you may have to water it down a little bit, but the expectation is, hey, we're in training right now. I'm not going to throw you at the phones on day one. Maybe it's just shadowing. Make them help you build. My first hire, he was a guy who was very detail oriented. I didn't have an employee handbook, and I said, part of your job is to write the employee handbook. Yeah. So every time you have a question, ask me, I'll answer it, and then you put it in handbook form. And by the end of his first 6 months, we had this amazing employee handbook.
We jokingly call it hit by the bus book. If you got hit by the bus, could somebody come in and take over?
And don't be afraid. I mean, don't be afraid to bring someone in and tell them, this is an unfinished product. I need you to help me build this company.
And also don't be afraid that if you, let's say you're in the middle of training and something comes up and you have to deal with a fire for a client, that's a perfect opportunity for them to shadow you. They're going to learn a lot. They're not just going to learn that the customer comes first. They're going to learn that, and by the way, let me add a caveat really quick before the rest of what you learn. The customer comes first when the customer has to. The customer does not come first because they snapped and you have to jump. It actually sets a mindset in your customers' minds. Of course, it depends on which industry you're in. Of you get to it when it's the appropriate time on your calendar, because that helps you be more efficient. So anyways, you're going to teach your new employee, customer comes first when it's supposed to, how to have grace under fire, how to be a problem solver, how to diffuse the situation, and how to be efficient at solving a problem. Because sometimes people get in and they make it bigger than it needs to be and more time consuming. And so you're going to teach them how to dunk. I've noticed when someone's shadowing me, I am on my best game. Yeah. Because I don't want to set a bad example, and I also don't want to waste time. So it's not a bad thing.
No, and actually shadowing, if you have an intelligent employee, they're going to pick up so much just in shadowing you. I think the worst thing you can do is go solve a problem behind a closed door.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll fix this. You screwed up. I'm going to go in there and be the hero, right? And I'm going to solve this problem. Yep. And anything you do, I think, make that new employee sit behind you and create the checklist that they're going to use for the rest of their time with you. Right. It doesn't take very long before you've got a checklist for every process. And then you just switch seats. Right now, okay, you've watched me do this. Now it's time for me to watch you do it. Here, get your checklist out, run through it. I'm here if you have questions. And when do you know? The way I know when someone is done is when they go through the checklist and I don't have to correct them. Yeah. Right? It's like, okay, we've done this a few times. Try again. I'm going to do my best not to interject. And you do your best not to ask questions, but I'm here if you need me. Yep. And if they can get through it and they say, I got it, then you know that piece is checked off on the training. Now, is training ever done? What do you guys do for ongoing training? You guys do a lot of ongoing.
Yeah, we do a lot of ongoing training. So Monday is training that we do mindset and improv. Tuesday through Thursday is role play. So we do where they split into groups, where we get all together and break down a call, and then where Shannon, me, and Angie, our other broker, go through the hot seat, where they throw all the terrible, awful objections they can think of. So they get to witness how we would handle things. So that's Tuesday through Thursday. We do productivity coaching on Tuesdays, and then we do team training on Thursdays. So team training is about how to do the job better. Tuesdays is how to become more productive. And then periodically we'll do like a 1-day or a 2-day workshops.
Wow, yeah.
So
off-site, you'll take them off. You'll bring in a guest speaker. I've heard about some of the stuff you guys have done.
Yep.
That's so valuable. You're investing in your people, right? And they feel it.
It's, there's a lot that comes from it. When you invest in your people, I can't remember who it was. Some famous guy said, well, what if I spend all this money training my employee and they leave? And he goes, what if you don't and they stay?
Yeah.
Like invest in your people.
Yeah.
It makes them more loyal as well as representing you and your brand and your company better.
I think it's important to say to your employee that you're going to invest in them, and why not set a verbal expectation for how long you would like them to stay? Like, look, it's going to take me 2 years to get you up to speed to where I'm investing in you for 2 years. And then I would like another 2 years of where I reap the reward of that and I get to make some money off of this partnership, right? I think it's not a contract. It's not a, something that anybody's bound to, but it at least sets the tone that, hey, I want him or her or them to get a fair shake out of this deal. I'm not going to just take all the investment and training and then disappear on them.
Take their plate to go.
Yeah.
That's what we say a lot. So one of the things that we also tell our employees, so our staff and our agents, even our vendors too, is that there's the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And we say this brokerage is our baby. And you guys are our village. And we know what we know. Shannon and I know what we know. We don't know what you know. And we know what we think the impact is going to be on the different decisions we make and as we grow. But we don't know the unintended consequences that sometimes don't even appear until later. And so we make sure that each one of them, we actually sit them down individually at some point and say, it is both your right and your responsibility to share with us anything you see that could make the brokerage better. If this brokerage isn't functioning the way that you want it to, then it is your responsibility to come and tell us.
Yeah.
So then we can take that information, and perhaps what's going to happen is we're going to explain to you why we've already considered that and why we made the decision we did, and here's how it impacts it. And maybe it'll just kind of put your mind at ease. Perhaps you'll bring something that will say, we didn't think of that. Yeah. Thank you for bringing it to our attention, because as you grow your business, as you hire people, as you have more customers, you are going to have to evolve the way that you do things. And if you only evolve it based on your perspective of what's going on in the business, you will be stunted.
Yeah.
So make sure that they know that they're helping build the company they want to work for. So we tell them it's not just our company, it's yours too.
Yeah.
That ownership feel makes a
difference. I wish I had brought this up sooner, but there's a book I read that relates to this. Ego is the Enemy, by Ryan Holiday. Have you heard of this book?
I have heard of this book.
Every page of that book had so much in it that it took me forever to read it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the problem with me and with a lot of people who can't seem to grow is their ego, right? I'm too good. Nobody else can be as good as me. Or even worse, I want all the credit.
Yeah.
I want to do this myself. I want to stand at the top of the mountain all alone. And get all the credit, right? And that, what you were saying made me think of that, because you built something awesome, and it takes a real check of your ego to let those people come in and improve it.
Yeah.
I get defensive all the time. Somebody's got an idea and I'm like, well, wait, that kind of improves upon my idea. And I want to defend my idea instead of checking my ego a little bit and saying, hey, that's even better.
We literally tell them it's okay to tell us our baby is ugly. You never tell someone their baby's ugly, but if this brokerage is our baby and there's something they don't like, we do have some ground rules. We say that when you come in to tell us, you need to be respectful, but you can be respectful by saying, this is the program you rolled out. This is why I don't like it at all. It doesn't work for me because of . You can't come in and be like, I hate this. This is wrong. And the worst thing ever is complaining to the wrong person. So this is another scenario, which actually this is something that's good to share with the people early on. I've done it in the interview process before, and I've done it in the first week, is that if there's something you don't like, most people respond with the first two options. First is you complain to the wrong person, and your intention is to say everything you hate about it so they can get on the same page as you, and you guys can just have this toxic poo-poo about what's going on here and it's just awful. The second one is that you are probably still going to the wrong person, sometimes the right person, and you're still kind of rude about it and you have no solutions, but you're just trying to figure out what else is there. And then the third way is to go to the right person and say, here's what's happened, here's how it's impacting me, and here's what I'd like to see instead, or here are some solutions, or help me come up with some. Mm-hmm. Most people don't go to this route because they've been shot down bad by other people. Most people they go to, they're like, you told me my baby's ugly, or you're offending me, or right? It's going to hurt the relationship or anything like that. And so we make it very clear to them that it's safe to come to us and tell us you don't like something. And it is safe to come and give some feedback that the average person would get offended by. Yeah. By the way, we had to learn to become this kind of person because we weren't that way naturally. But as leadership, we learned that in order to have the most effective growth, the most sustainable growth, and just to shorten our learning curve, honestly, is what it is. Shorten the learning curve of the different things we're implementing, because we have to be this way. Yeah. And so we even help hold each other in check sometimes and be like, take a breath.
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah. I think it's really important for people to feel like a valued contributor as in their organization.
And it has to be implemented. I mean, if you haven't done it already in your hiring process, do it later. But it's amazing the impact it can have when first you explain to them that's how you want them to show up, and then you prove to them that it works. Yeah. And then they keep coming more and more. Yeah.
Any last thoughts about training? This topic that we've covered, I think we've covered it pretty well.
I think we have. One thing that we do in our brokerage is that we purposely redline, which means that we push them to their absolute limit, and we usually do it the second week. And I know you don't do it this way. Our logic, the reason we do that is because inside of real estate, there are times when it gets really crazy. And if they are not able to handle the crazy that periodically happens, we don't want to find that out when someone's home is on the line. And so
what does that look like?
So we'll give them a significant amount of tasks that they need to get done. We'll say, we need you to get this done in a day. So for an average person, learning a new task, for example, takes an hour to complete. And once you get really proficient, it takes you 15 minutes. And so we'll give them enough tasks, homework, different things like that it's going to take them more than the 8 hours, and tell them it can't get it done in 8 hours. And we know that it's not going to impact our customers. It's stuff that we can pick up the pieces. It's not a big deal, but we make them get done more within an 8 hour period than they're capable of doing. So then they're like, learning, figuring it out, making it happen and stuff like that. There are a lot of tears. Wow, yeah. But we tell them, hey, we're redlining you on purpose. We want to see how you handle the stress. We want to see how you do with this. And just know that it's going to happen sometimes in the business. We don't always tell them that as we're doing it.
Yeah, up front.
Sometimes we let them kind of experience and get into it, because we also want to see, how do they respond under pressure? Do they become really mean? Some people become really mean when they're under pressure. Some people become really defensive or blaming or anything like that. We want people who are going to be like, hey, this is really hard. I don't know how I'm going to get it done. Can you help me? Yeah. Type thing. So we want to learn their personality. We want to also see, are they the type who will be like, you know what, I'm out. I just don't want to do this.
I'm sitting here thinking about a solopreneur who's already drowning in business. Yeah. And they want to hire, they want to build a team, and they're listening to this to learn how.
And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. It's too hard. I'm sure
they're overwhelmed, right? It's like, okay, wait a minute. Now I got to put together this really thorough interview process. And then I need a training, structure that's all built out. And I think
so evolved. This is keep in mind, guys, that this is evolutionary. It is not revolutionary. You might have moments that are revolutionary where you spend an entire weekend and you build out a big piece, but even still, I
like that phrase. Yeah, evolutionary, not revolution. Because I always think I got to go close myself off in a cabin in the woods for a whole week and write up the genius process that's never going to change, which is a fool's errand. First of all, I don't have a week to do it, and I'm not smart enough to write the process that never will change.
So if you have to start somewhere, and let's say you're already too busy, let's start with make the job description. That you could knock out literally in 20 minutes. Like I said, just make a list of everything you do. Put your hearts and your $signs. And then what's left is your job description. Create your avatar. And with your first one, maybe I should be talking here. With your first one, pick somebody that you would love to work with. In fact, that's even one way that I tell my potential clients as I'm interviewing with them is pick somebody that you're going to enjoy working with because you're going to be with them a lot. And then figure out what are your super strong strengths and what are your super horrible weaknesses, and try to find someone who is awesome at your weaknesses, because you don't want to just straight duplicate yourself. You want somebody who's going to be synergistic with you. You want someone who's not going to end up with the same gaps and the same holes, because then you're in the same boat still. And then just kind of trust your gut, pray, and just get your first person and get started, make them shadow you and build out the book.
And I would say be open to the idea of training.
Yeah.
Put someone in training and tell them they're in training.
You're in training.
And just the mindset alone will change their onboarding experience, right? You don't have to have the whole structure to have the mentality.
Right.
And say, okay, for the next month you're shadowing your training. Maybe you can sprinkle in a task here and there, low-level things that they can help you with. But it's like taking 2 steps forward to take 3 back. It honestly will make your life harder for the first month if all you're doing is you got someone shadowing you. You have to explain everything you do. It takes twice as long to do every single thing because you're talking about it and that's worth it. It's such a worthwhile investment to
It's storing your leftovers in single serving containers.
Yeah, there you go. It is. I mean, you just got to have the mindset that you are building future capacity, a business greater than you.
And you don't have to teach them everything. Like, pick what are the tasks in particular on your list. Have them shadow just those couple. Then send them over.
I've had moments where I'm training somebody. I'm sitting there and I'm showing them how to do something very basic. And I've thought to myself, this is such a waste of my time. I could get this done
in 2 minutes instead of
10 or I 10. Should not be doing this. I should be doing something high level, right? And always I remind myself that I'm investing in my future.
Yes.
This is going to pay off. I believe in this person that's sitting over my shoulder.
Yep.
He or she is going to be amazing. And I picture, what's it going to be like a year from now?
Yeah.
5 years from now when we've been together.
Oh my gosh. Even just 2 months.
Yeah.
You're going to experience rewards 1 or 2 months later if you just pick a few tasks and teach them those well, and then just add to it as you can.
And I like to say that to the assistant or the employee. Like, imagine how easy this is going to be a year from now when we've been doing this together for a whole year, and then 5 years.
Yep.
So,
one last thing that we didn't really put in here too is that we do have their job description where they build out what their time blocks are going to look like. Time blocks, I'm sure everybody on here is familiar with it. It's just the blocks of time on your calendar where you work on specific tasks. And then have them log, especially once they get going and they're not necessarily onboarding with you anymore, how they're spending each of those time blocks. Them keeping track of how they're spending it will actually help them identify where they might need to ask questions, and it'll help you identify, whenever you can. They do it every day. I review a day, maybe once a week or every 2 weeks. But my purpose is so they're cognizant and so am I, and I can see, what is it that's maybe taking longer than it should. And then we just kind of process, analyze, how are you doing that piece? How can we tighten it up stuff? So the little 2 millimeter changes that you make as you go.
Evolutionary, not revolutionary.
Yep.
That's gonna change my mindset. I love it.
Look at us helping each other.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, thank you, Liz. It's great to chat with you again and talk about this. On the next episode, we're going to dive into delegation.
Yep.
Talk about how to take this person who is now trained.
This is one that was hard for me to learn, but I've been getting a lot better, and I love it.
We're going to just dive into how we do that and go over that. So we'll see you all on the next episode.
Okay. Thanks, Nelson. Thanks, guys, for listening.